yell a little. It's going to be lovely. I'm Annika. I'm essentially somebody who worked for radio stations for many years, for TV stations. I'm in the film business myself. I'm a writer, and I have some wonderful people next to me from various different parts of the industry. I have an investment company with me. I have an Oscar-winning writer with me and a big-time independent producer. And I want to start by introducing each one of you guys. Do you want to take over? I'm going to just sort of hold this
Sure.
for you.
Should I speak into here?
Yeah, just for recording the voice.
Yeah. My name is Nicholas Erickson. I'm with Giant Leap Media Ventures. We do a lot of film finance on independent feature films in the range of anywhere from $1 million to $15 million. I produced myself around 15 films and sold and distributed 50 to 60 films, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I'm Charlie Wachtel. I am a screenwriter. I was a writer on Black Klansman, and I'm super thrilled to be here.
Hi, my name's Gary Michael Walters. I'm a film and television, mostly producer these days, and I'm independent and interested to see how technology is transforming the media landscape.
Hi, I'm DJ Jang. I'm the editor partner at Giant Leap Media Ventures. I'm also a producer by trade, both in scripted and unscripted.
So my first question goes to Charlie. We have somebody like a Sam Altman who last year at the Lachlan Murdoch conference said something along the lines of all middlemen are going to be cut with AI, with the development. So that means in our industry that either you're an idea person or you're somebody on the very base level. What does that mean for you as a writer? How do you integrate AI yourself? Because you're clearly an idea person, an artist. Sure. How do you use it?
Should I use the mic? Or?
Yes, let's try to yell a little bit into it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll just start by saying I don't use AI as a writer. I know that there's some people who do, but for me, it's, I think about creating things from scratch. And to me, AI doesn't, make things. It remakes them. It remixes them. It repurposes them. And so the way I see it, like, I don't really have any use for it in terms of that. That said, I can see it being very valuable for people in like an exploratory phase, who are doing initial research, maybe researching IP, researching the genre that they're writing in, or something like that. So.
Okay. Gary, when you are in the pitching process, when you look at writers, does AI at this point in time in the business, when it's still new, does it even come into play? How do you use it? Do you put your decks together with it?
I haven't had too many androids come in and pitch me yet, but I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully no androids will be taking people to lunch and telling them they haven't aged a bit, because then I'll be out of a job. I believe that AI is part of the assault on copyright creators. The large platforms like Google are complicit in the rampant theft of intellectual property. I don't know. I can think about buying something and there's an ad on my phone, but they can't stamp out piracy. I don't believe it. Why do they not stamp out piracy? Because they have no economic incentive. So they allow that to flourish. I pivot now to AI. AI is, they call it iterative, I call it regurgitative. It takes the creations of humans, puts it in a blender, and masks the copyright theft. It's masked theft of creators. Now, having said that, there is a function for AI. The one thing that I saw that was written by ChatGPT, I watched it and I said, wow, that is the worst script I've ever seen. I would be That's embarrassing. And then my friend, who is a director, that's his latest hat that he's wearing, said, oh, well, who needs a writer? I'll just feed my ideas to a computer program and let's see what comes out the other end. And what came out the other end was garbage. Now, there's an old saying that 1,000,000 monkeys banging on typewriters will eventually produce Shakespeare. I lifted that from Kurt Vonnegut. I'm not that clever. And basically, that's what you have with AI. You have 1 billion digital monkeys, cutting and pasting the work of other people. And because it's so blended, it's invisible. So does it have functionality for many tasks? Obviously. Is it at a stage where I'm looking to a writer to look to a computer program to write me a script? Not even close.
Okay. DJ, Nick, if we wanted to talk about the business side of this, get away a little bit from the IP issue, obviously, we all have our take on that, and we need to get a lot more into AI ethics in order to deal with it correctly. But if we're looking at distribution models, if we're looking at how AI changes the streaming wars, how it changes, AMC's going down, so theaters are out. So how is AI playing into this for you guys, or a finance company? How does it even play into it? How do you guys use it?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think since we're sitting at a pretty late stage in this process of filmmaking, I guess the honest answer is we don't really know the stuff that comes to us, whether there's AI blended into it or it's not. It's sometimes hard to tell. I mean, what we're looking for obviously is the story and the financial model and everything else that makes sense to us to invest, right? So I think the process, a lot of the stuff might be used prior to that, but honestly, we're not quite sure. As far as our business itself, there hasn't been any sort of implementation in that form in terms of our day-to-day work in evaluating projects. I think the predictive analytics side of things are there, not really Gen AI, so to speak. But I think there might be product developing in the future. But so far, we're haven't seen too many in our day-to-day aspects thing. But again, the things that get sent to us, things could be blended in there that we're not aware of. But we'll let Nick.
Nick, I'm going to extend that question a little bit. If you have AI models now, they can essentially replace a sales agent. They can look at it and go into what actor in what country will give you what numbers, how can you sell it? Do you guys use any of it yet? How will you?
I'm not sure that would be extremely useful because, as Gary was saying, it's already taking what's happened and just regurgitating it.
Right.
And if we kept doing that, what we're going to see is just Marvel, 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 which we're kind of seeing a downtrend of that right now. AI is not in a position to predict, the trends of the general human populace and what they think will be interesting to see on screen. Do you have something?
Yeah, I would like to interject there because one of the biggest things AI does is look at viewer data, what they click on. That's the Netflix algorithm, right? So how do you guys not work with that with AI yet?
I mean, the programs, I have not seen them. Mm-hmm. I would test them out if they were there. Mm-hmm. I think that, on the number side, like accounting, for example, I work with a company called Roll Credits, and it kind of streamlines as a tool to, make everything more accurate, create a better bottom line. But you still need the human there to analyze those tools and make those decisions, right? If you had AI just making all the decisions, who knows what's going to happen? Right. In general, I'm not really high on having AI take over in a creative capacity, like you were saying. But in terms of using it as a tool for some arduous processes, including data analytics, it could be useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charlie, let's go in there in terms of being a filmmaker. You are somebody who writes, who directs, who does all of these projects, who does the research. AI can function as a research assistant. It can function in so many ways. Is it going to become an artist-heavy business where you're a one-man show filmmaker, like a one-man band, drum here, guitar here, all with AI?
I don't think so, and that's because I think AI, while it is predictive and it is based on pattern recognition, it cannot account for the human element. It cannot account for nuance in a screenplay. It cannot account for pacing, and it cannot account for flow. But I think it's something that can be useful to us, certainly in the early stages. And I think practically, AI, just having played around with ChatGPT myself, I think it's a great tool to have at our disposal, and one that in a lot of cases is more effective than regular search engines in terms of like the research that you need to do for a project, or if it's something as ordinary as like find me restaurants with gluten-free menus, or what are the best recipes for apple pie or something like that. So that's what I think it's useful for, and I think it's only going to kind of like creatively steal our jobs essentially, and take people out of the workforce only if we allow it to. It could be our friend, or it could be our enemy, and I think we have to just be very careful with what we're willing to tolerate.
Gary, I'm going to actually extend that question for you, because this is a big question for any producer, is, cutting 2 million off the budget, right? So if you had to cut somebody of below the line who can be replaced by AI, if it's a sound engineer who's, first of all, a visual effects person who you can, the first pass, have done by an AI and then cleaned up, which is currently a big union discussion, as you know, how will you deal on that line between having the budget make more sense for distributors and the human ethics element?
When you're talking about cutting a budget, I don't think ethics comes into play at any financing shop that I've encountered. The push-pull on budget is traditionally price versus quality. And so when you back into a number, which is a very common saying, I do think that, just going back to what you were saying earlier, I think that there's a strong data analytics function of AI in terms of gathering and compiling information that can be useful in the sales process for rationalizing it. Although AI hasn't yet replaced the kind of originality of human creators, in many respects, you deal with an opaque market, so that the more information that is brought into the equation, I do think that the sales market is very backwards looking. I don't think it's forward looking. So in a case like that, in a backward looking scenario where there's no true creativity in saying this actor, this producer, this director, this box office, this profitability, this ROI, I do think that it can expedite a rational discussion over something that is a lot of guesstimates involved. So there's definitely a value in sort of having a light speed research assistant. That is 100%. When you start getting into functionality in production, in a budget, and you start to look at what the current capabilities of AI are, I think that there's a lot of routine functions or repetitive functions that will become, I think, for example, in visual effects, a lot of the things that are done are highly repetitive. So let's say you have you're going to hire a visual effects shop, and one of the things they do isn't like Iron Man, pulsing an energy beam. They're like penciling out boom mics that are in the shot. No one's going to argue that penciling out a boom mic in a shot is some tremendously creative function. Could AI do that and then blend the photo, so the image surrounding it, so that it's cohesive and coherent? it seems to me that's a yes. And so, on the one hand, there's going to be clear efficiencies, I think, in task-specific line items. The push-pull there is between the capability of technology and the resistance of the unions to, and I've done almost exclusively union shows, so you're not going to find someone bad-mouthing unions in this chair, especially the Teamsters.
We're outside.
But having said that, there are hiring practices in the union agreements. I don't think feather bedding is the right term, but I think there's a certain degree of redundancy and unnecessary personnel that are in union agreements, and I think those will come under pressure, especially at the lower budgets. I think the biggest barrier to incorporation of AI technology is just lazy producers like myself, you know, who just are like, huh, what? But I think that as we're replaced by technically more literate younger producers, I think that you'll see with fresh voices, with fresh producers, with fresh writers and directors in the independent space who are coming in on independent shows where there are no rules and where they have to make the most they can with the least amount of resources. I think you're going to see a burst of ingenuity of application of AI. And it's going to start in many cases at the bottom, not at the top, which would be what you would think.
Okay, DJ, a pretty simple question. In 3 years from now, what the industry going to look like with AI, with what we're doing, with the functions that we hold?
I don't know. That's a simple question.
Come on.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, like Gary said, I think some of the processes in production, especially in post-production, are going to get replaced for sure. But I think at the core of it, you know, like such as writing and the actual creative aspect of things, I think they'll stay relatively the same. I think there'll be some tools that's helpful and, you know, help, you know, discover new things and maybe actually lower the entry, barrier to entry for other people to come in and you know, you see some pitches now that some of them are using AI as a part of the pitch in terms of the deck generations and proof of concept reels, and those are getting their ideas across, and those are, you know, good way of using the tools, right? So and, you know, and if that helps, you know, that's great, you know, to get more people's idea across easily. And then, you know, in the post side, you know, assistant editor's job is pretty much done. Like, you know, in Adobe Premiere, Avid, I'll both have AI function building there to do that, right? Basically, transcribing automatically, organize your dailies, everything. That's basically what the job of this, you know, assistant editor is. And so you know, and special effects as well. You know, the boom erasing and all that. So those are, yeah. I mean.
But how's it changing for how we finance movies and how we consume them? Because for the financing models, there are now companies that will, in post-production, use AI to place products into the movie that aren't there. How's it going to change how you guys finance the films and personalize them?
I feel like it might help our bottom line, you know, in a lot of ways. So there's a possibility that it does help us in terms of risk mitigations and higher ROIs in that way. I don't know if that's a good thing, and where like the decision-making process, if it's just based on that alone. But I think it's something I think will be welcomed in most people in our position. I think in terms of raising that, you know, lowering that risk and raising that ROI in that way, and you know, mitigating cost on production. So yeah, it's hard to say. So yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah.
All right. Yep. Nick?
On that note, I feel like the creative who control, you know, the whole and creative endeavor are the ones making those decisions if they want that stuff in there. So I think they're going to just adapt. You know, the creative will adapt to kind of. You'll have two camps, like one camp where it's like, oh, another one of these like product movies, and then a real true creative endeavor, right? And I think we're smart enough. The audience that I know is smart enough to understand the difference on these different camps. Yeah.
As a closing statement, because we're coming to a close on this panel, if each of you have like a good idea on what you guys want AI to do, starting with Nick.
Just the remedial, repetitive processes is, I think, the best function. You just got to remember, you can't trust when you're doing the research and things like that. You can't trust everything AI spits out, and you have to be more media literate than that. And we're gonna get to that point eventually. But I feel like too many people are just seeing ChatGPT spit out an answer and be like, "That's the truth," which is not the case.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I don't consider myself a Luddite when it comes to AI. I would say it has a lot of practical uses, and I think there's going to be a learning curve over, the next few years and what the best ways are to use AI, especially for creatives. But I do think there need to be protections that are in place that can kind of protect creatives. Actors, writers, directors, some sort of creative AI Bill of Rights, if you will, that I think people can lean on so that when they're making these decisions, they're not making these decisions only for budgetary reasons.
Sam Altman, give me an overhead deal. That's the future I see.
Yeah, I think they covered most of what I was going to say in terms of interpreting the actual what's spit out. Don't just take it for face value. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys all for doing this lovely little first AI panel. And Carl, I'll give it to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. I love doing this. Let's talk film sometime.
Yeah. John? Okay, the next part. So we have to be quiet only till 4:30. 4:30 we start music and drinking, so don't disappear before you can stop.